And where was your mother from?
My mother is closer to Budapest, and that was the real Hungarian town, TISAFYURED. Tisa happens to be one of the second biggest river in Hungary, the Duna and the Tisa. And that was near TISAFYURED, near that river, Tisa, and it was near to a big city, EGER, that is the main city over there.
What year did your parents get married?
In 1920.
1920.
And interestingly enough, both of them, family name was Klein, and they weren't related, but Klein is a very common name. And they lived in Budapest. They married in Peshterzhebed, that is next to Budapest, is like here is New Jersey to New York.
Another next door.
Yes. And then they moved to Budapest and they lived there. And then how is my father and my mother met? I have no idea. Somebody read the Shiddat, I assume. And they got married in 1920, December 25. And then they moved to Budapest. And then I was born, and then my godfather brother was born, whose name was Leslie Klein.
Here's some cute stories about Bobbi's mother.
Bobbi's mother, whose name was Louisa Klein. And as I mentioned it before, he was the sixth of the six children and the youngest girl. And she had to dance like the other girls were whistling. And she wasn't too happy about it, but she says a couple of cute stories. For example, in Europe in the olden time, every woman baked their own bread, and they baked a big round tzipo, how you call it? It's a big bread, a big round bread for the whole week. And they never cut up the fresh bread. They always baked the bread before the old bread was gone, so they can eat the yesterday's bread. Because that way not so many bread was used up. The fresh bread was too fat, you understand? Yeah. So my two aunts, my mother's two sisters, had some friends who came over to the house, and my grandmother wasn't home. And they were talking, and there was a nice, beautiful big tzipo called the big bread. And they said, let's make some French toast. So they had a box of eggs, a basket of eggs, and the big fresh bread. So they sliced up some bread, and they broke up 6 eggs, and they beat it up, and they baked it, and they had some bread left over. So they broke 6 more eggs, and now they had eggs left. So they sliced up more bread. So there was no bread and no eggs left for the whole week. Then it happened once that I don't remember exactly what happened with my mother, that a mosquito bit him or something, and his sisters wanted to help him. So they took vinegar and they bandaged her hand in the vinegar, and never her whole skin came off. They soaked the schmata in vinegar. But she had the oldest aunt, whose name was Matilda, who was very, very handy. My grandfather has a seltzer factory, but meant is that they had those old-fashioned seltzer bottles, and they went from store to store or from house to house selling a box of seltzers. And they were going with a horse and wagon. There was no cars that time, and at least they didn't have. And many times people couldn't handle the horses because they are also temperamental, some horses. But they said Matilda always knew how to handle the horses. They have to brush down the horses and wash them, feed them. And she loved my mother very much because she was the baby in the house. And she was so handy. She used to make her a dress and hat and shoes. She made her sister shoes, everything. She was very, very handy. Never she also ended up in Auschwitz, so did the whole family from my mother's side, except my mother remained alive. whole family was taken from this Peshterzhebed, that was, as I said before, like a little town next to Budapest, and we were successful to putting them in wagon and put them to Auschwitz and burn them.
Nice.
I want to say about my godselige mother that she didn't have a doctor's spark, but she was a very smart mother and she knew how to bring up children.
Yeah.
And if she said to us, come here, I want to give you a patch, we went over because we know if we don't go, we're going to get two. So she said to me, when I got married and I was in America and she was still in Europe, she said to me, my dear child, when you're going to have children, don't bring them up with your heart, only with your mind. So I said, Mom, how could you say such a thing? He said, you think you can take away your heart? Your heart will be there, but some people are bringing up their children like monkeys. They don't use their head. It's very important to use your head instead of giving in everything to the children and not to say what is right and what is wrong. And it's really very important by bringing up children. She was never angry when she gave us the patch. We deserved the patch, so we got the patch, but she wasn't angry. She wasn't hitting us because she was angry or nervous. Matter of fact, I hope I did the same thing with my children.